On our previous episode, we explored the beauty of the Teton mountain range. Next, we travel into Idaho to see the natural wonders of the southern part of the state. After crossing the Teton Pass from Wyoming into Idaho, we went in search of a boondocking spot in the Caribou-Targhee National Forest. We turned onto Forest Road 25 and began our search. This windy dirt road passes through a beautiful landscape with views into the valley. There were numerous established sites along the drive which continued for about 5 miles before ending at a trailhead. We selected a spot about a half a mile from the end of the road. It was tucked under some trees on a nice flat lot, complete with horse hitching posts that we were able to use to hang our inflatable kayak to dry. The next day our plan was to cook breakfast and hit the road early, until we heard what sounded like faraway dirt bikes. There were many ATV trails in the area and the noise didn't surprise us, except that it was only 7:30 in the morning. As the sound got louder, it sounded more like cows mooing. I looked outside and saw not cows, but dozens of sheep stampeding down the hill to the creek, then headed our way. As we watched in amazement, not dozens, but hundreds of sheep overtook our campsite. Maybe it shouldn't have surprised us since we were in an open stock grazing area, and as it turns out, the trail just north of our site is called Sheep Highway Trail. I put the drone up to capture what was going on from above. The sight was amazing. I was careful to land the drone at the end of the road so I wouldn't spook the sheep. What I thought would be a quick walk back to the camper turned into a 45-minute standoff with a sheepdog who was taking his job very seriously that morning. There was no way he was going to let me get anywhere near his sheep, although my wife was standing within 6 feet of the flock at the other end and the dogs didn't seem to mind a bit. This was clearly the craziest thing we've ever been part of while camping, and was so worth the delay to our schedule. It was a beautiful morning for traveling with scenery all along our drive. As we drove out of the mountains and looked down into the valleys below, it was no wonder why people chose to live in these quaint towns. Communities like Swan Valley were so picturesque with great views all around. first view of the Snake River was from the overlook on the way to Idaho Falls. The views from this location were great. Downtown Idaho Falls was their next stop with views of the waterfalls on the Snake River. In 1891, in an effort to attract farmers to the area, marketers convinced the town leaders to change the name of the town from Eagle Rock to Idaho Falls in reference to the rapids below the bridge. Some years later, the construction of a retaining wall on a hydroelectric power plant transformed the rapids into waterfalls. A family-friendly park now runs alongside the river and falls. It was a nice visit to take a break from driving, and the shade from the park was refreshing on a hot day. Shoshone Falls is referred to as the Niagara of the West, and for good reason. Its 900-foot width and its 212 feet height beats Niagara Falls by 45 feet. In the spring, between 10,000 and 12,000 cubic feet of water run over the edge every second as it carves through the deep basalt canyon of the Snake River on its way to the Columbia River. The water level was listed as low this late in the season, but the view was still magnificent. Late spring or early summer would be a great time to catch the falls at its high level. Tourists have visited Shoshone Falls as early as the mid-1800s when travelers along the Oregon Trail would detour to visit the falls. Locals called for the creation of a national park around the falls, but Congress never approved the proposal. So, in 1932, Frederick and Martha Adams donated the land to the city of Twin Falls with the stipulation that the land be maintained as a public park. In 1933, the state of Idaho donated the land to the west of the original park site to the city of Twin Falls. Fee to visit was $5 per carload and was worth the wait for the parking spot. Four miles to the west of Shoshone Falls, you will find the Perrine Bridge. This truss-arch bridge is part of the U.S. Highway 93 and spans the Snake River 486 feet below. If you're there at the right time, you might get to witness someone jump from its height, well, as part of a base jump. The bridge is known around the world as one place you're free to base jump year-round without a permit. If you were a kid growing up in the 70s, or for that matter an adult of any age, your attention was likely fixed on a place near here on September 8, 1974. 2 miles to the east, halfway between the Perrine Bridge and Shoshone Falls, is the launch site where daredevil Evel Knievel survived his unsuccessful attempt to launch his rocket motorcycle over the mile-wide Snake River Canyon. As an 8-year-old, I was glued to my TV along with much of America as we watched the rocket float towards the Snake River after the parachute malfunctioned and opened on takeoff, all wondering if the daredevil would survive. Luckily, his rocket landed on a narrow riverbank. Otherwise, had it landed on the river, he likely would have drowned. Today, the launch site can be seen in the distance, but is nothing more than a large dirt ramp. Fans of Evel Knievel have erected a monument to commemorate his attempt. This monument can be viewed near the city's visitor center on the southwest side of the bridge. The day was getting late, and we needed to get to the Sawtooth National Forest to find our next camping site. We headed just north of the town of Haley, finding Forest Service Road 97 to the west. The site was large, surrounded by towering hills and backed up to a nice little creek. Backtracking south about 50 miles, we stopped to a place many locals don't even realize exists, Black Magic Canyon. Over the years, water has shaped the basalt rock lava flow into some cool-looking sculptures. You'll find an eerie 3-mile work of volcanic art that can only be described as spectacular. The canal is still used for irrigation and is best visited in the spring and fall. Read the signs and make the call to the Big Wood Canal Company, who controls the water flow, to make sure it's safe to venture into the canyons. Also, stay safe and keep an eye out for rattlesnakes in late summer. Fortunately, we didn't find any on this day. Our next adventure was to head north of Ketchum through the Galena Pass to see if we could find the old Silver King mine. After a long, slow, rough drive on Forest Service Road 204, we realized the mine was on private property and inaccessible. But we did stumble across the old historic Sawtooth City, so the trip wasn't a bust. Gold discoveries on Beaver Creek in 1879 led to mining activity in this location. By 1882, Sawtooth City had 3 saloons, 2 restaurants, a meat market, a store, a Chinese laundry, an essay office, a blacksmith shop, 2 quartz mills, a sawmill, and 80 or 90 construction workers building their town. 4 more years went by, though, before miners worked out a system to process their gold ore. Although 200 miners were employed by 1886, very little could be done after that. One disaster after another led to suspension of work there in 1892. This is all we could find of what remains of this town. Heading back east over the Galena Pass, we wanted to find a spot we'd marked out months ago. We've been watching Mark Guido's Grand Adventure YouTube channel for quite a while, and at the end of his intro there is a shot of his campsite on the North Fork Big Wood River. We wanted that site. When arriving, we found the site is no longer available and the replacement across the drive isn't that great and was already occupied. So instead we continued down the road to the end and found an even better spot on the river, the last spot before the trailhead. We had a little fun posing our mascot, Mr. Potato Head, in the middle of the river to send pictures to an uncle back home. But we'll share more on his travels in a separate video later on. A storm rolled through during the night with some rain and lots of wind and temperatures at 27 degrees in the morning. Little did we know what the storm left for us down the road.